So this film's been really collaborative from the beginning. Chris approached me about the idea of making a film, but basically from that point we worked together and with people from East London Foundation Trust to even design what the film was going to be about.
I'd been wanting to make a film about autism for quite a while, and this opportunity presented itself. The rigour that was put into the development of this film has been really inspiring.
We have had a co-production model, so people who were involved from the very start have followed all the way through. So they've been involved in designing the script, in sharing their stories, and they were involved with making the film as well.
I'm autistic and I came in as a expert by experience. I work in autism services, so it's my whole life.
We use drama therapy to help generate the stories. We heard them and then we kind of explored them in depth by using creative methods.
Everything from writing to mapping to movement to really interrogate people's sensory experience of the hospital.
So we had a drama therapist and me, another drama therapist, working together very much as we would do in a group drama therapy session, and everybody participated. So, director, producers, everybody was there, all offering something. And in that way, we were using something that we use as a therapy tool to kind of find a way forward with the film.
And then from that, Chris worked with people to develop the story and the script.
I think working with people with a lived experience from a storytelling perspective has been really, really interesting. And I think it's really taught me the value of collaboration.
We explained our experiences that we had. It was mostly the sensory part of like experiencing a hospital and the environment. The overwhelm that comes with entering a hospital, the sound, the squeaking doors, the footsteps, the people rushing around, people moving, people meeting, people chatting. Sensory-wise, they're so overwhelming.
I had myself a medical appointment. It was very challenging for me going there. So I kind of described to other people how this impacted my life. It was just to outline to them that if potentially one of my in-laws was attending the same kind of appointment, it would have been traumatic for them.
Running a service where we're seeing people who are potentially autistic, it does make me think again that we really need to review the environment that we see people in, and there are things that we can probably do to significantly improve those environments.
As NHS workers, we're not looking to do things for specific groups of people, but actually what we should be doing is just having compassion for every person who walks in the door. Because I think there are a lot of autistic people who haven't got labels saying I'm autistic, I need an alternative way of working. But actually what we are looking for is compassion and response, and compassion and just noticing someone is struggling.
Even as clinicians, maybe we have little control over our environments as well. But if we can show compassion and be curious about someone's experience and acknowledge that it might be difficult, then we can still make it better, even if the environment itself remains difficult in some ways.
As a doctor, I think one of the ways that we can change our sort of practices in clinical areas could be to incorporate colour into our sort of waiting rooms and sort of working areas. So for example, maybe having some of the doors coloured, sort of blues, greens, yellows, and sort of downstairs, for example, having some oranges and reds upstairs, and in the waiting area just having a little sort of sign saying, sea floor, and then showing the colours. It might just help people to navigate this space a bit easier.
So we were very clear from the outset that we wanted to have a neurodivergent cast, and we came up with a great cast. I mean, we had, that everyone was amazing. And Lakani, who plays the lead, was incredible.
She is an autistic woman, and I am also neurodivergent, and really related to the character, which I felt like was a really good fit for me to be able to play autistic for the first time. And with all my other fellow actors also being neurodivergent, I feel like we just really all had a mutual understanding working together. I think it was quite nice because I was genuinely like more unmasked than I usually would be on set. So that was a really positive experience.
One of the main insights for the film is this notion of autistic joy, and this came from one of the co-producers.
It was me that told the story about going to the woods with my daughter, and the sun was coming through the trees, so you had that sort of dappling of light. There was a gentle breeze, so you could hear the leaves sort of making that lovely whooshing sound. And She was just running so carefree, and it was just one of those moments where I felt totally overcome by the beauty and natural elegance of the situation.
And so straight away we felt, well, that's a really interesting insight, and that really kind of plays alongside the overstimulation of being in a hospital environment. And actually in one of the sessions, Mel, one of the co-producers, she kind of showed us what she was looking at.
My living room, when I look out towards my local park, there is a large tree. And that's the tree that I had been looking at, yeah. And it's my kind of my refuge, that tree.
Mel wanted us to kind of have our main actor sort of really engaging and really sort of being part of nature. So she suggested that the actor picks up some dirt and rubs it in their hand, and then they look at some form of nature. And she talks about a spider, but we weren't going to get a spider. It would have been difficult to wrangle a spider. So we got a snail. And that snail was amazing.
I really like the sequence in the wood. I mean, it was so full of joy, and I hadn't realised how beautiful snails were, quite frankly.
There was something quite magical about it.
So I loved that creation of a sensory world, and seeing that or feeling that in the film, I think was something that I will definitely take away. Both the way that the sensory worlds can calm you, but also how the sensory worlds can overtake you in certain ways.
One of the scenes I really liked in terms of thinking about one's behaviour and how that comes across was the waiting. There was a scene in the waiting room, and thinking about how your non-verbal behaviour, but also your commenting is kind of how people can be very sensitive to that. And it made me think about the kind of concept around sort of shame and social shame, and how actually in our behaviours we can be perpetuating that very subtly.
So I'd have to say my favourite part of the film is probably that scene towards the end where Jules is in the doctor's office and the doctor comes to sit beside her. I think that that's like a really beautiful moment of like compassion on screen, and will really help kind of raise awareness and educate people to kind of lead with compassion, because it was like Jules was kind of in her own world, focused out on the nature, and then just that moment where she snaps back into it and comes back to the real world, but isn't met with any kind of negativity. I felt like that's a really poignant moment.
I think the whole film was really powerful. I think it's really nice to have those sort of insights and to hear autistic voices.
It showed I think an honest situation, because I think so many films are either the person's super intelligent or they need 24-hour care. And I think you never have somebody in the middle who they've got a car, they have a home, they have a job.
I think it's so wonderful that finally there's sort of validation. As an autistic person, it's my daily, experience. And although I don't always sort of show it out, it's very internal. So I may be panicking, but it's not outward. I usually go to the toilet if I'm overwhelmed, similar to in the film.
I think there's a message for everyone who is in healthcare, who encounters, anyone in the public, that compassion is so important, and just noticing different behaviours, thinking about how we can really just simplify language, give people time, give people space, and think about what else might be going on for that person under the surface that we can't see.